this technique is called Japanese Sword Part A. There's also a Part B, but right now we're going to focus on Part A. This attacker comes up and they're going to throw a left roundhouse punch at you. Okay, you might be able to get away with this on a straight punch, but you'll definitely be able to get away with it on a roundhouse punch. Before we start that, though, since this is the first technique that you're learning, let's talk about what these techniques are. All right. Well, first off, what they are not is they are not an end-all be-all to every single situation that you're ever going to encounter. All right, that's the first thing. The second thing is that as we go through these techniques, every single move that we do in the technique may or may not be done in the street, in real life, in the situation that you're in. Okay, you may end up just doing the first part to get loose or the first part to counterattack, and then after that, who knows what you're going to do. Okay, that's why we learn over 250 self-defense techniques as you go from yellow to black belt, so that by the time you get to black belt, you have an arsenal of techniques to use against any number of attacks. And if at some point during that technique that you're performing, if something goes wrong, the attacker doesn't move the way that you thought they were going to move, or the attacker, you miss a strike, or the attacker doesn't stop when you think he should have stopped, you know, because you hit him in the face and you were like, hey, he shouldn't keep coming, but he did, right? The reason you have those 250, that whole arsenal, is so that you can pull bits and pieces of each one of those techniques into whatever situation you're in. All right, and then perform that piece of the technique to resolve or to overcome the attacker, right? So the goal here is to learn these different techniques so that you can use bits and pieces of them to adapt and overcome any situation that's handed to you from an attacker. All right, that probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense right now starting out, but as you start to see how these work, and as we start to go through these, you'll start to understand what it is I'm saying and why I'm saying this. You know, because there's going to be times you're going to have friends, you're going to be like, hey, look, I learned this today. And they're going to say, grab my wrist. And they're going to be like, and then you're going to be like, I can't get loose. And they're going to be like, oh, well, you know, sometimes it's not going to work just the way it's supposed to work. Or your friend's like, oh, what happens if I was to punch you instead of this, right? Okay. That's exactly what I'm talking about. If the technique that I was about to do called me to rotate my hand out to break free, okay, and for some reason, all right, I couldn't do that because the person was too strong, what could I do? Am I just going to continue to try to do the technique over and over and, oh, I can't do it? No, I adapt. How do I adapt? Four-finger eye shot into the eyes, okay? That's probably going to loosen their grip up a little bit. Then I can come out and follow up with something else, okay? So, yeah, your friend may be like, well, it doesn't work. Well, no, they don't always work exactly like you expect them to, but that's why you can combine them. That's why you can pick and choose from them. That's why you can adapt them, all right? So, as we go through this, you'll see what I'm talking about. So this is Japanese Sword Part A. It's a left roundhouse punch. The attacker comes in, throws a roundhouse. I'm going to step in with an extended outward block, all right? My left hand is going to cover. My right hand is going to stop the punch. I'm going to open up my right hand into what's called a knife hand. I'm going to come across the neck right here, or strike down onto the neck. Boom, just like that, to the side of the neck. Now I'm going to fold in across the person's face. And I'm going to do a little shuffle here, a little front step, rear step. And as I bring this rear step up, boom, I'm going to drive this elbow straight into the chest or into the face, depending upon where the attacker's head is at, okay? So, one more time. He throws the roundhouse, boom, in, knife hand, and then elbow straight into the chest, okay? When I do this knife hand, I'm hitting with this side of the hand, opposite the thumb, slight bend to the fingers, and fingers together, all right? I don't want to get these straight because if they get hit, they get bent back and break, okay? So I'm going to keep them slightly bent. And I want this knife hand, excuse me, I want this thumb tucked in tight, and I want the fingers tight so when I strike here, they don't clack together. We'll talk more about how the knife hand functions in another belt, but you're going to start using it now so you're already used to it by the time we get there. All right, and by the time we start to expand on the 8 different knife hand strikes that we have, okay? So without the attacker, They throw a left roundhouse. I'm going to step in, hyperextended outward block. I want to be in a good horse stance. Crucial. Go over those basic stances. Learn the basic stances. If you don't have a good foundation, you can't build anything on it. It's going to crumble. So you have to have a good foundation. So good horse stance, toes turned in, knees puffed out, feet parallel. All right, covering with my left hand. Knife hand strike to the side of the neck. Pull it in, step, and then step in again and drive that elbow straight into the sternum, solar plexus, or face, depending on what target's open. Okay, so let's do it together here. This way, step out. Stepping out here to about, say, 230, hyperextended outward block, knife hand, shift, and then in with the elbow straight into the chest. Okay, and that is Japanese sword part A.